pretty lively early morning crowd. Nice job.
No, you guys, I just got my coffee.
Do I even need to do an introduction? Do I? I'm going to anyway. I'm going to spend it on myself. No, I'm Scott Renshaw. I'm the Arts and Entertainment Editor at the Salt Lake City Weekly newspaper. And it's my pleasure to introduce Susan Egan this morning, a Tony Award nominee for originating the role of Belle on Broadway's Beauty and the Beast. And Meg in Disney's Hercules. Any Steven Universe fans? So I will definitely allow plenty of time for all of you to have questions. I'm just going to get things started with a few, and then I'll let you know when it's time to start lining up. So I want to start because I had read a couple of interesting stories about your audition process for Beauty and the Beast and how you think you ended up ultimately landing the roles. I wonder if you can share how that all came to be.
Sure. So I had just moved to New York, and I'd come off of a national tour of a show called Bye Bye Birdie, a 1950s musical. The director and star of that was directing Grease on Broadway, another 1950s musical. So I sort of thought, oh, that might be my inroad. And that season on Broadway, they were also auditioning Carousel and My Fair Lady and all these things, and I was going to all those auditions. I was doing pretty well, I was getting callbacks, and they hadn't been fully cast yet, and I was still in the process. And when my agent says, you have an audition for Beauty and the Beast, and I thought, Beauty and the Beast? First of all, she's described as like the prettiest girl in the village, and I had spiky red hair and looked like a punk rocker, and I'm like, yeah, that is not me. Like maybe Peter Pan, but not that. I had also never seen the movie, I know, and I think that's what Scott's talking about. I had never seen the movie, and I was this theater snob, like, Disney's gonna do a cartoon on Broadway? I don't think so. And it's such a life lesson, isn't it? To A, not edit yourself, right? Don't ever limit yourself. People will limit you, don't be one of them. So, who knew, that I could be Belle, and also wigs and dresses can do a lot for somebody. So, but also the fact that I was putting down this idea of Disney doing Broadway, which of course now seems so obvious for Disney to be on Broadway, but this was their first production on Broadway, and I was sort of snobby about it, and what an idiot. I went to the audition because my agent said, no, your job is to go and meet this casting director. And I sang my song, and I think what you're referring to is the fact that I hadn't seen the movie maybe should have worked to my disadvantage, but worked to my advantage because Paige O'Hara was amazing in the movie. But the moment you start doing an impersonation of somebody, it loses that authenticity. And now that Paige and I are good friends, I recognize that we're very similar people and similar performers. So what I was doing at my audition was never betraying what Paige did, but it was authentically me, and it must have rung true a little bit for them. Also, if you're going to mimic Paige, the movie was 90 minutes and the play's 2.5 hours. There's an hour new material, and so you've got to sort of be able to draw from yourself anyway. But I ended up booking it because I hadn't seen the film. It didn't have these preconceived notions. And when I read the scene for them, they're like, oh, read the scene for us. Papa, do you think I'm odd? And I thought, well, she must be odd. And so I did something goofy and I got a laugh, which is not what the scene's about at all. But I think it gave them the impression of like, oh, we can explore new avenues of Belle. The stage production I like to call, Beauty and the Beast 2.0, and now we have the live-action movie, which is Beauty and the Beast 3.0. And in each incarnation, we get to learn more about this character that we all love and grew up seeing, or not seeing because I didn't see it. I have since seen it. The day that the final callback was 3 days in a row. The first day working with the artistic director, the musical director, the director and choreographer. The last day was singing for Michael Eisner, Jeffrey Katzenberg, and 30 other Disney executives. Those were the CEOs and presidents of the company at the time. And I didn't care about those days because I didn't know who any of those people were. Oh, to be young and naive. And but the second day I had to sing for Alan Menken, and that day was crazy because I was obsessed with Little Shop of Horrors. So to see him behind the table, and I remember walking in the room, and I remember leaving the room 5 minutes later. I have no idea what transpired in the room, but it must have been enough to get me to the final day of callbacks. And after that final day of callbacks, about 11 o'clock that night, my agent had called, said you got the role, and then the director called right after that. And then I didn't know what to do with myself, but this tells you how long ago it was. This was 1993. There wasn't a 24-hour Blockbuster down the street. So I lived in Harlem, so my dog and I walked up the street to Blockbuster and I rented the movie.
And that was how you celebrated.
And that is how I celebrated, and also freaked out because I'm like, wow, it's a really big part.
So I also understand you took the, for this role, you took the break a leg a little bit too seriously.
Oh goodness, you did your research, yeah. So they started calling me Calamity Belle. Because I really don't know how to do things halfway. I jumped in and I broke my arm the first year in the middle of the show on stage, and I broke my foot the second year in the middle of the show on stage. Yeah, kind of live theater, folks.
And did the show go on?
Yes, so the first time, it was right at the top of Act 2, and my arm was actually dislocated in an opposite direction, so the show could not go on. They brought the curtain in, and my understanding had never been on. We were still, we had opened, but it was the week before the Tony Awards, and the Tony voters were out there, which is a bummer, but it doesn't matter. I never would have won anyway. It was going to be Donna Murphy, for sure. I voted for Donna Murphy, let's be honest. But she, who later played Mother Gothel, so we all know how evil she is. So anyway, they had to stop the play, and my understudy went on, and she was 6 inches taller than me, but we just said, oh, it's just the Enchanted Castle. That's the effects of it. And I went to Roosevelt Hospital in my costume with my basket and my cape and my blue dress, and nobody looked twice, because it's New York City, so Belle in the emergency room next to the gunshot victim was totally a regular Friday night.
So I want to share a little bit about Meg. She's got a little bit more of an edge than most of the Disney animated heroines, certainly at the time.
Right, yes.
So I'm wondering how you came to develop the voice performance.
So I had a dresser who was with me all through Beauty and the Beast, and I was really young doing Beauty and the Beast, and when the peak of your day is at 10 o'clock at night, you don't go home at 11:30 and go to sleep. You sort of, your whole schedule shifts, and I would be up till 2 or 3 in the morning, and then I would get up at 11. That's sort of how your Broadway day goes. And I live by myself, like I say, I'm in Harlem with my dog, and there's nothing to do late at night. You have to stay quiet and protect your voice. And so she would bring these old MGM, Warner Brothers movies to me. She had them all on VHS, and I would watch a different one every night. Joan Crawford, Betty Davis, Lauren Bacall, Barbara Stanwyck. And I watched all of those. Well, then the audition for Hercules comes out, and Meg is described as Barbara Stanwyck in The Lady Eve. You may not know what that is, but in the 30s and 40s, the roles for women were fantastic in Hollywood. They were strong. I don't know what happened in the decades after, and now it's coming back. But these were the mobster girlfriends. These were women who were the leads of the movies and running it, and they were fierce. They also had this certain cadence of the way they would speak. Lauren Bacall would, if you need me, just whistle. You know how to whistle, don't you? You pucker up your lips and below. The whole thing's kind of sing-songy. So when the character Meg was described as Barbara Stanwyck, and I got the sides, a little script, a scene to read, I knew exactly, but it was so well written that I got to stay out of the way. They wouldn't let me audition at first because I was playing Belle for them, and they didn't think that Belle and Meg are at all alike, which they're not. But I was the squeaky wheel, and they finally let me audition, and I walked in the room, and they say hello, and then it's very strange. I had never auditioned for any animation before, but what happens is you're in front of a microphone, and they're recording your audition. And I was just in a little dance room in the middle of New York City. You could hear, the sirens outside and everything. And they said, thank you, just begin whenever you'd like. And then they all put their heads down like this. They don't look at you, it's weird. But what they're doing is they're looking at a picture of the character and they're listening to you. Because maybe they like you. Maybe they like your voice, but it doesn't make sense coming out of this mouth, right? The picture. But it was all the same people who had cast me in Beauty and the Beast. And it was the scene where Herc meets Meg. And the reader says, are you all right, Missa? And I just said, Megara. My friends call me Meg. At least they would if I had any friends. So they give you a name along with all those rippling pectorals. popped up. They're like, Susan, Susan. I'm like, yeah, I've been trying to tell you guys. Like, when I'm Belle, I'm acting. You know, Meg is right where I live. So I am naturally sarcastic. I am definitely, like, when my friends saw the movie, even though it's not physically me, they recognized me more in Meg and that role than anything else. Because even the physicalities, and I, you know, it's been a real slice. I did that at the audition, and ultimately when I got the job and I saw the storyboard, I'm like, oh, that's funny. I did that at the audition, and Alice, the producer's like, yes, that's where we got it. Okay. But like all the angular things, that's sort of stuff that comes naturally to me, and I just love her. And I would imagine people who didn't know the reference would have said, you know, my name's Megara. My friends would have called me Meg if I had any friends. Like, they would have just sort of said it in a contemporary way. But the script was so good. And now there is Hercules 2.0 happening in New York City. Do you guys know? Yes, this weekend is their final shows, but they've taken Hercules live, and it got spectacular reviews, and so I'm hoping that they move it to Broadway, because I was one of the few people, I was one of 4 people who was in the recording session when those muses were singing that music. So I was one of 4 people who got to hear that stuff live with those voices, and now I'm hoping the world gets to hear it live, because that music rocks.
This audition for Hercules was the first time you had done voice acting.
Yes.
Obviously, you've done quite a bit since then. I'm wondering what you've learned over the years in terms of what the unique challenges and opportunities are with voice acting.
Such a good question. I learned a lot about being a theater actress, even though I was already on Broadway, doing the voice acting, because you don't have your facial expressions, you don't have your body language. Even if they animate some of what you're doing, you're really reliant on the expression of your voice, quite obviously, right? But you're not in a scene, you're not in a costume, you just have to sort of manufacture it with the help of Ron and John, the directors. You're just isolated in this little booth. And like my second session in Hercules, I realized, honestly, the people past the 10th row on Broadway aren't getting my facial expressions. Like, there's something to this about really learning how to, I call it onomatopoetic acting, where your onomatopoeia is a word that sounds like what it is, but you have to infuse the meaning of the words within the sound of the word as a voice actor to just, you know, get it happening. The first scene that I recorded for them was, you know, Nessus grabbing Meg, and they're like, that's great, can you do it now? Like, there's a fish down your top. And you're like, okay. So, you know, not a lot of sense memory there, but okay. So you just have to sort of figure it out. And I think it's made me a much more dynamic actress. I also love that I'm not limited to my own physicality. So, you know, in Steven Universe, get to be a giant woman is awesome. To you know, get to play a dog, to get to play, you know, I just played a frog on Amphibia, is the new series on Disney, and so I got to, you know, do an episode of that, and there's a little frog with a bobbed haircut. my heart. So yeah, I think it's my favorite form of work. I love it because it's limitless.
So you were just in Utah a couple of weeks ago with your Broadway princess. So I was wondering how that all came together and what have been the unique pleasures of that.
I am turning 50 this year, and the last thing I thought I'd be doing at this age is revisiting my glory days as a princess. However, it's completely turned me around. My friend Laura Osnes, who was Broadway's original Cinderella and in the revival, and Benjamin Rahalaz, our musical director, they had this crazy idea. Beauty and the Beast was the first of its kind, with Disney bringing, you know, this material to Broadway. But since then, of course, there's been Shrek, there's been Little Mermaid, there's been Aladdin, there's Frozen now, there's all these different princess musicals. And Benji was at a party one night just thinking, wouldn't it be hilarious if on our Monday night off, because that's the dark night at Broadway, on a Monday night off, we just invite all the Broadway princesses to come to 54 Below, which is a really cool club in New York City, and we just sing the entire canon of princess songs, just kind of dressed as the princess, just super kitsch, but also just singing the butt out of it, just like really singing it. And so they did this one-off concert, and it went crazy. We now sell out in 5 minutes in New York City. And last year, and it's just whoever's available, so it's always a different crowd as far as the cast. But they asked Laura to take it outside of New York City last year, and so Laura invited me, and we decided just to do 3 princesses. So it was Laura, Cinderella, myself, Belle, and Meg, and Courtney Reed, who's the original Jasmine on Broadway. And we re-scripted, Laura, Benji, and I, and Courtney have formed an LLC called Broadway Princess Party. And we're now touring, not just the country, but the world. We're going to Abu Dhabi, we're gonna go to Barcelona, we're going all over the place. And it has turned into what I wanted to bring for them, because they've never experienced this, is what a Comic-Con does, which I came kicking and screaming into the Comic-Con world because I didn't understand it, and I thought, I'm not gonna sit at a table and sign my name, like that seems awfully narcissistic. But what I learned was I get to talk to people who love the same characters I love, and I get to see 2 Belles, and we meet in the center, and nobody is ever saying, my Belle's better than your Belle. They're saying, I love your dress. Did you do your own wig? Did you design that? Did you sew that? It is such a celebration of love for these characters and these movies and television shows and comics and pop culture, and I just feel like, not to get too heavy, but in the world we live in right now, isn't it wonderful to have this safe space where we all can just love on each other and celebrate each other? So, an interesting side effect of Broadway Princess Party, which, like, we sell out, people go bananas. I brought in the idea of, let's encourage everybody to dress up. Like, let's give you another place to wear that Belle dress. Not just FanX, but come to the Broadway Princess Party. And so now everybody's in cosplay, and it's not about us saying, we are the princesses gracing you with our presence. It's, we are here because we love the same girls that you love, and we got to play them for 5 minutes, and that was amazing, and I'm gonna tell you about all the times it went wrong, which is hilarious. And we're gonna sing the music, and you're gonna love it, and you're gonna sing with us. But it's really about your turn to unleash your inner princess, and let's just love on this music together. And it's become the celebration. We encourage you to film it. Nobody's saying put away your cameras. Do whatever you want. Post it, dance, run up and down the aisles. We throw princess prizes at the costumes we love. Like, it's just absolutely glorious. And we're bringing in all the other girls. So we had Anastasia this last week, Christy Altamar, who's amazing. We're going to be in New York on October 7th with Jodie Benson. Kristen Rodriguez, who's playing Meg right now, is going to come in and sing. Aisha Jackson, who is the first African-American to play Anna in Frozen. Bless. She's coming in. So it's, and the side effect that we did not expect was that when we're interviewed on Broadway, or even for this kind of stuff, when the live-action Beauty and the Beast came out, I had a lot of press that I had to do for it, and the journalists, not you, no, but always seem to ask, like, so what do you think about Emma Watson? Do you know? Like, they ask with an agenda, and my response is completely genuine. I think she's brilliant, and she's perfect casting, and she's such a cerebral girl anyway. Like, she has so many aspects of Belle, a little uptight, also like Belle. Like, so she's great, she's glorious. And they do that with us on Broadway. You know, we're all competing against each other for these limited number of roles, and we never have an opportunity to perform together. But we love each other, and we are very different. And we get to be on a stage together celebrating each other. And if you guys are moved to tears, we're simultaneously moved to tears. Like, it's such a great thing. I'm overstating it, but we'll probably be back. We were coming off the stage in Layton, and they already asked us back for next year, so... BroadwayPrincessParty.com, or follow us at B-Way, B-W-A-Y, Princess, P-T-Y, on Insta and Twitter, and you'll sort of see what we're about. We've got like millions and millions of hits on YouTube, so you can see our videos. Just have fun. It's very unexpected. My life has taken that turn. But yeah, it's fun to run the company.
This is going to be my last question, so if anyone who has a question would like to start lining up with a microphone, this is the time to do it. So this is in honor of my friend Jimmy Martin. This was the question that he always asked, which is, and it can't be a Disney song, but what is your karaoke song?
Oh my gosh, well, it's Suddenly Seymour, and it's got to be with another one. Because even all these years later, it's still my favorite show. I love everything here. Yeah,
All right.
Suddenly me see more.
Is our microphone ready? Okay, go ahead.
Will you sing I Won't Say I'm in Love for us?
Yeah, from which part? Are you guys gonna be the muses? Yeah, we'll do like a quick section of it. Is that good?
Yeah.
If there's a prize for rotten judgment, I guess I've already won that. No man is worth the aggravation. That's ancient history, been there, done that. Who do you think you're kidding? Easier than heaven, so you try to keep it hidden. Honey, you can see right through it. No chance, no way, I won't say it, no, no. You swoon, you sigh, why deny it, uh-oh. It's too cliche, I won't say I'm in love. Good job. I will just say that in that session, I was with Lilias, I was with LaShawns, I'm with Cheryl, I'm with Roz. Okay, 5 of the most glorious Broadway voices there are, right? And Alan's in the booth just saying, he's like, okay, so LaShawns, like, so Lilias, you know, take this riff on this line, I'm gonna make that line a solo, and, you know, just take a riff there, and then Susan, just take a riff at the end and just get to the last note. And I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like, Alan, I don't riff. I'm the white girl and you're gonna need to plunk it out on the piano. And he's like, seriously? And Lilias is like, oh, girl. And Alan had to come into the studio and go, ba, 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 ba. And I'm like, what? Go, 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 go. And I'm like, And Lilias is like, oh, they're gonna be here all day. We finally got one take. Never felt so square. It's so humbling, right? Living your dream. Also pathetic.
Hi, my name's Rosalind, and I was wondering what it was like to work with the Crewniverse on Steven Universe and how fun it was to play such a complex character as Rose.
Okay, well, I didn't know. It's like I get that first script and she's just an amazing mom. Steven, we can't both exist at the same time. I'm going to become you. And it's just like love fest with this camera. Like, imagine if you have this terminal illness and you know you're not going to be there when your child is born, and what are you going to say to that child? And that monologue made me cry, and like we did it in 2 takes, and it's just because I loved it so much. And now she's the evil villain of all time. What happened? You know, Rebecca seemed so nice at that first session. Isn't it amazing, though, that it's not two-dimensional, that it is that complicated, that a mother who loves her son could also be selfish and flawed and immature and real? Do you know? It's sort of amazing. The other side of the whole thing, the bigger picture, aside from just Rose and Pink, is the message that Rebecca's delivering. She's just so ahead of the 8 ball, right? In society, she knew where we were headed before we knew where we were headed, and she has messaged that so articulately and is delivering that message with such love and acceptance for even the people that are taking their sweet time and like hooking into it, instead of yelling and screaming and pouting and complaining. Like, it's such a lesson to us, not just in the message of itself, of accepting who you are, accepting who others are, embracing and celebrating everybody's path, right? But in how to do that, in how to be patient for people who haven't caught up yet, you know, who are going through their own struggles and coming to terms with these kinds of ideas. And I think she's sort of genius.
Thank you for coming to FanX. My name is David.
Hi, David.
So in a couple of your albums, you recorded the song "A Change in Me," and
Yes. I can't believe my heart, yes.
My question is, did Disney approach you about singing those songs, or did you approach Disney about recording those?
So fun. Such a good question, David. Wow. Okay, so David, for those of you who don't, and none of you should know, but I have a bunch of albums out, and I do, popular music on it, popular Broadway music on it, but then I like to throw some curveballs in there. I Can't Believe My Heart was the original song written for Meg. It's 99 cents on iTunes if you want to hear it, but on my Coffee House album. But it's, I was so excited to get Hercules and work with Alan again because I was going to get my own power ballad that I would get to sing forever. Like my own solo song that my friend Jodie Benson has one, and Lea Salonga has hers, and I was finally gonna get mine, and they wrote it, and it's called I Can't Believe My Heart, and it's a beautiful song. And we recorded it, and they started animating to it, and it wasn't working. And the reason I was cast in Meg is because it had been 4 movies since they'd had the same actress be both the singing voice and speaking voice. Paige was Belle, both, and Jodie was Ariel, but then starting with, Jasmine and Pocahontas and Esmeralda and Mulan, they were different voices. So they were excited to have an actress be both voices, but I sang that song, and they're like, but you don't sound like Meg. Like, we couldn't find a register to sing that song in and have me sound like, they're like, you sound like a different actress. I'm like, okay. And it was Ken Duncan, the animator for Meg, who said, it's a great song, you guys, but Meg would never in a million years sing a soaring ballad. She would never admit to being in love. She would be in denial. And they're like, duh, yes, right. So they wrote the other song, and then all of a sudden, even singing the same notes, it was Meg, right? But it's a great song, I Can't Believe My Heart. And so when I did Coffee House, I knew I wanted to have it. It was never written out. It was just this scratch lead line that Alan had written out for me for the recording session. So I had to go to Disney because they technically own it. They didn't remember having it. Those trunks at Disney are run deep and nobody knows or remembers. So I called David Zippel, I called Alan, and they're like, we actually don't know where the rights resided. Like, we all just sat there like, what to do? And they're like, just record it. And so I did, I recorded it. And nobody's asked for any royalties. I'm pretty sure I paid him to Disney. And then A Change in Me was a song written for Beauty and the Beast about 6 years after I left the show. They had, oh my God, who was coming in to play Belle? Toni Braxton, thank you. So Toni Braxton was coming in to play Belle, and they thought it would be really fun to release a single for Belle, which is a great idea. So they wrote this song for Toni for the second act that is very much sounds like Whitney Houston's "And I always love you," all that. And this is "And I," it's the same song. And then Toni was going to go in and record it. They were going to release it, and Toni's label wouldn't lend her out to Disney to do it. So it never got recorded. And so when I called Alan about that one, he's like, yes, record it. And Disney was like totally cool with that and fine with that. And I actually got to record it at Abbey Road in London, which was pretty awesome. So both really good songs. That one's on So Far. Yeah, great question, David. Thank you.
My name is Jensen. I'm actually a big fan of your albums too. My favorite is It's a Good Thing He Can't Read My Mind.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, It's a Good Thing He Can't Read My Mind. Christine Lavin, if you don't know who that is, she's a singer-songwriter who writes the funniest material, and I try and steal all of it.
So my question was, so you got to work with Terrence Mann. He was the original Beast on Beauty and the Beast on Broadway.
I got to kiss him.
I was curious about what that experience was like, and if you could work with him again on a Broadway show, what would you like it to be? And
Oh my gosh, I've seen him do a million things since then. Like, I go and see him and everything. The last thing was Pippin. He's amazing. Terry's 20 years my senior, and so he was really like a big brother to me. Really, not that I needed a lot of protecting, but he had navigated so many Broadway shows. To go into my first Broadway show at 23 and to be playing opposite the guy who was the original Javert in Les Mis and the original Rum Tum Tugger in Cats, like I was so nervous. And at our first read-through, like, I had practiced what I would say to Terrence Mann. Like, I had auditioned opposite him, but we hadn't had a conversation. So I had planned that. I go, Terry, actually, you were in the first Broadway show I ever saw. He's like, oh, is that right, sweetie? What did you see? I said, Barnum. He's like, oh my gosh, that takes me back. He's like, Barnum was such a fun show, and he told me a couple stories about it. About 10 minutes later, he's like, how old were you when you saw that? And then I panicked. I'm like, I don't remember. He's like, you remember. And I'm like, I was 10. He's like, I was 30. But he was amazing. When I broke my arm, it was the first time I'd ever missed the show, and he wrote me a note the next day. He's like, I feel like I'm cheating on my wife. I miss you. And then I talked him into, he didn't want to do the LA production, and I just had no interest in doing it with anybody but Terry, and I talked him into it. I go, please, 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 you have to go. And he did. And I love him. He's great. They would do things like, they designed, at our first read-through, they were telling us what the set design was going to be like and what we were going to do. And they were telling us about the wolf fight, and they said, and then we're going to have these puppets come up from the floor, and they're going to be the wolves, and you're going to be like on a treadmill, and you'll be running from them. And Terry looks at me, he's like, I'm going to fix that before that we get to that. And on opening night, you know, he's in the wings, and I'm running on a treadmill fighting against Muppet wolves, which would get laughs from the audience. They were not scary at all. And he's just looking at me with his stick, you know, and I'm so sorry. I go, this is your fault. And by the time we got to LA, he had switched it. He got them to change it because they kept saying, I mean, like, the director and everybody, they were like, I mean, it's so ridiculous. We couldn't put people in wolf costumes. And Terry's whispering in my ear, he's like, they've got a woman in a teapot costume. I'm pretty sure we passed that line. It took Disney a little while to catch up, and then we finally got, you know, Terry fixed it. And he did that about everything. Like, he would fix everything. I never had to fight anything. I got to just sit back and, you know, and watch him work. And Gary Beach and Beth Fowler, they were just mentors and taught me a healthy, kind way to work as well. So that, you know, I'm no longer the youngest in the cast. Now I'm usually the oldest in the cast. And to sort of, you know, pass that on and hopefully sort of mentor other people. That's definitely what he was for me.
Egan, I really appreciate you being here. I think we all do. I hope we can see you many more times. In Hercules, what are some of your most requested lines besides "It's been a real slice"? And can you say that it's been a real slice?
So I'll give you a couple, and then I'll tell you about a story about the slice line. So I guess the one that's on the T-shirts, you know, I'm a damsel, I'm in distress, I can handle it. Have a nice day. You know? But I love all of her lines. Some of my favorites, like, are the greatest thing since they put the pocket in pita. Like, they just so many good ones. And then they would also, once you locked in what the script had, once they got the take that they liked, they would let you do anything you wanted. And so, like, when Herc and Meg are coming back in after their date before the I Won't Say I'm in Love scene, and they're talking about what they did that day, they were talking about, you know, Tate and I were recording together. He's like, and that Oedipus play, I mean, man. And I came in with my own line, which is like, that boy sure loved his mother, you know? And I can't believe they didn't use it. They felt like it was too risque. I go, no, it's perfect because kids don't know what I'm talking about. They have not yet had, like, sophomore English, you know? They don't know. But I think the parents might enjoy that line. So that one makes me sad. There was also, no way, Jose, I won't say no, and they got rid of that one, which I liked. That wasn't mine, that was David Zippel's, they just rewrote it. But some of them that stayed were in the scenes with Jim Woods, who I was very nervous to meet as well, because I remember him from, like, Salvador, like, I mean, the drug lord, like, serious Oscar award-winning actor. I was very scared to meet him because I thought he would be really intense, and he wasn't. He was like Robin Williams. He was bouncing off the walls. He would never stop talking. You couldn't get your words in. You couldn't, you know, we would do the scene as scripted, and then we would improvise, and he would never stop talking. And so I'm looking at him, waiting to, like, get my lines in, because we still had to accomplish what the scene had to accomplish. And I'm looking in the booth at Alice and John and Ron, they're like, we know. It's been an issue for us too. And I finally just turned to them, I'm like, are you finished your oneness? And I could just see them because I can't hear them, but they're laughing and they put it in. But all that Meg, my little peg, my little nutmeg, my little all that stuff is just Jim. That's just him. Ridiculous. Her, can I call you her? Can I? Like, oh my God, I got it.
My favorite villain.
Sorry?
Oh, I think Hades is my favorite villain.
Oh, he's so good. And Roger Bart, who is the singing voice of Hercules, is playing Hades in the New York production right now. He's a Tony Award-winning actor, amazing. I've done 3 Broadway shows with him. He's perfectly cast and going to be great. The story about It's a Real Slice, that was the audition. Thanks for everything, Herc, it's been a real slice, right? That was the end of the scene for the audition scene. And I got the role, and now I'm in the studio, and they want me to say it just like I did at the audition. So they played me my audition, and I listened, and I'm like, perfect, okay, yeah, okay. Thanks for everything, Herc, it's been a real slice. And they're like, yeah, not quite. We still like the audition one better. I'm like, okay, let me listen again, and listen. And for 2 days. Herc, it's been a real, they're like, yeah, it's close. We still like the audition. To the point that they wrote software to take that cassette tape, nothing was digital yet, to take the New York street sounds out of the recording so that they could use my audition tape in the movie, and that is what you are hearing. I am either such an amazing actress that I nailed it on the first take, or I am such a pathetic actress I am incapable of redoing it. I think it's the latter. But that's the story about It's a Real Slice. So I could do it for you right now, but it's not going to be impressive because clearly I can't do it. But thanks for everything. It's been a real slice.
You were also in the movie Spirited Away as who, now looking back at it, reminds me a lot of Meg. But how was the transition from voice acting and having the animators adapt the character to your voice?
Right.
To have...
It's the opposite, isn't it? I mean, it's so crazy. So I'm this weird, cerebral, math-minded person. I went to college on a math scholarship. How crazy is that? Performing is a weird thing. So the idea of having to dub really appealed to me because it's super technical, but it can't sound technical at all. It has to sound like the voice was the original voice and the animation is a reaction to the voice, right? But to say something in Japanese, to say a sentence that means something in Japanese takes so many more syllables than it does in English, that the English translators had to come up with more for the character to talk about to justify all the lip movements. Make sense? And so they actually offered the job to me because Lasseter's like, go get the girl who played Meg, and then I was all excited, and then I'm like, okay, what kind of voice should I use for this? So they're like, Meg. But she's gonna sound just the same. They're like, yep, that's what we want. I'm like, okay. So yeah, not a lot of range there. But what they were doing was not just translating the dialogue into English, they were translating the culture. Because in Japanese culture, unfortunately in our culture here, it's not the same. Elders are very revered and very respected. So even Lin just being a few years older than Sen would be very deferential to her, which you can see in her body language in the movie. But that doesn't make as much sense in American culture. So what role does Lin play? So they wanted her to be more of the streetwise, artful dodger to her, Oliver Twist kind of thing, where she could sort of show her the ropes, to be more of an older sister, and a little bit more, edgy, yes, because that's funny and the sarcasm plays well in American culture, but also to have this sort of more tender side than the Japanese version has, which is always very sort of regimented with Sen. And so that was really cool to get to do, but it literally is like, beep, 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 send, get over here. What are you, stupid? You know, like whatever the line is, and if it doesn't match the lips, we would sit there and watch it, and this is what I loved, and say, ooh, what if I don't say, what are you, stupid? What I say, you know, you look stupid, or something like, because it looks like the lips are saying something more like this, or like, yeah, let's try that. And so it's just really super technical, but then you would have to get that rhythm to be natural, and then also convey that streetwise, offhanded, off-the-cuff, improvised feeling to it, which I adored. And then I got to do it again in Porco Rosso, which was super fun.
It's great to have you.
Thank you.
So, what advice would you give to those who want to create or act or do something, but either have doubts or fears about whether they'll be able to do it or
So
not?
yeah, so twofold. First of all, if you're waiting for the doubts to go away, they won't. They never do. People are like, how do you not get nervous? I always get nervous. I'm nervous now. The difference is like the flight hours of a commercial pilot needs 10,000 hours to fly the commercial jet line. I've had hundreds of thousands of hours of being nervous. So I am just accustomed to what it feels like to be nervous. It's in my familiarity zone. So I don't focus on it, I sort of float through it, right? Self-doubt is the same thing. You just move forward anyway. You can't wait for it not to be there. You just go through it anyway, and then going through it anyway becomes the habit and becomes less and less challenging. So it is changing inertia of oh no, I can't do that, so I'm not going to take action, to taking action, which takes a lot of impetus the first time to get that wheel spinning that direction. Oh, we're talking about physics. And so, but then ultimately that becomes your go-to. You just move through it anyway. The other thing I'll say is that the avenues, the inroads today are very different than in the early 90s with me before the interweb. I encourage people now, especially young females, to create their own content. To write it themselves, get a bunch of friends together, do stupid animation with your phone and glasses, or whatever it takes, and voice it yourself with your own message, with your own script, with your own friends. The animation doesn't have to be this polished thing. In fact, it's kind of hip and cool for it to be, gawky and awkward. And then upload it on this wonderful platform called the YouTube. And find your audience. Find your niche audience. It's no longer about being one of 3 networks. It's about finding your niche crowd, and look at the result. This fandom is a result of grassroots. It's a result of people finding their people, because now there's access to people who like the things that you like and love what you do. So if you have the notion, if you have an idea, other people will also react to it, because if it's meaningful for you, there is a big enough group out there that it will also be meaningful too. But it takes you just like pushing yourself forward a little bit. If there are people who are saying you can't do it, be that Venetian blind, the closed blind absorbs that information. Just open the blind, just nod and smile and say, oh, okay, and then just whatever, it goes right through you.
Thank you very much.
So I do a lot of music theater as well, just community stuff, nothing impressive.
It's impressive.
Thank you. But live theater has a lot of issues, right? Live theater has a lot of ups and, like, you break your arm or break your foot or whatever. So aside from those instances, what are your favorite, hilarious live theater, everything went wrong
There's
moments?
so many wonderful things, and we sort of live for it. Terry especially was this actor who got bored very quickly in a long run. I kind of love a long run because I love having the stone that is our show and then just polishing each facet to make it a little better every night. I loved the minutia of that. He hated that. So whenever something went wrong, he would just come alive. He was so excited. And so if the castle broke down, all the light cues would still land on the stage where the castle was meant to be, but it's no longer there. So it would just be this empty stage, and Terry and I would do this improvisational sort of scene work, and it was always just a joy. But there were so many things that went wrong because it was such a technical piece that you know, the night he didn't transform into the prince. It was this effect that was 99.5% chance of working, which sounds like excellent odds, until you do the show 400 times. And that's 2 shows where he doesn't transform. And the first time, they told us, just as the West Wing was turning, as we're going into the scene, like, it's broken. We're like, oh, I'm sorry, what? And we had to do this interpretive thing, it was awful. And then the whole like, dun, 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 and he's revealed, and he'd taken off the mask, and the audience is like springtime for Hitler, like, it's awful. And so we walk on stage, and Terry's like, I'm gonna fix that. I'm like, you sure are. And they came up with a better plan B. But I always love the moments where, in my yellow gown, I would come out, I would come through this like walkway, and these swags of drapery would reveal me in a yellow spotlight, no less. So the yellow was like yellow. And there was always this little intake of breath, because it also coincided perfectly with the da 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 happening. And so there was always like, this one day, I come out and I'm just, you know, work the Cape Batman, right? Just working the dress. And there's a little girl in her Disney store dress in like the 9th row center who stands up in her seat and she just yells, she looks just like me! And Lumiere starts laughing and Terry's laughing and I'm laughing. And that is 1,000% why you do live theater. Because you don't get to hear that when it's a movie, do you know? So to be the actor in the role and to get to experience in real time the effect is like, it's crack.
This is going to be our last question.
Oh, lucky me. Hi, I'm so happy that you're here.
Thank you.
I want to know about challenges that you faced in your career and how you've overcome them.
You know, I mean, I think it's a lot of things. There's a lot of people up for the same roles. It's another reason not to edit yourself. I talk about this a lot with master classes, that everybody, especially in your youth, you think your life's going to unfold a certain way. You have these dreams and you think this is the journey, this is the path. You think everything's going to come to me in a big red box with a big red bow. And so then you have blinders on because you're looking for a big red box. And what I have learned in my life is that nothing transpired the way I thought it would. That my dreams came true in ways that were more surprising to me than to anybody else. I did not think it would be Beauty and the Beast. I thought it would be Grace. I thought it would be My Fair Lady. I thought it would be Carousel. Who knew? What if I hadn't gone to that audition? What if I was almost cast in a gypsy movie with Bette Midler, and I was in tears for 6 weeks because they told me I had the job, and then I didn't get the job. That like the director, Stephen Sondheim, Arthur Lawrence, Julie Stein had picked me, but Bette wanted a different girl, and they went with the other girl, and I was bereft. And if I had gotten it and shot that TV movie, I wouldn't have been in town for the audition for Beauty and the Beast. Like, you do not know what the package is, and if you are looking for a big red box, you're gonna miss it. Because it's probably right in front of you in a green box. So I think the challenge is to remain open, to take your life like a surfer takes a wave. You can't control the wave. The art is in carving your path in the wave that you've been given. And it's always gonna be better than what you would have made anyway. And you're gonna meet the right people, but stay open to it. There will be half the people will always say you can't do something. They will always say, don't do this. Put yourself in the 50% that love what you're doing. Listen to your own self and your own gut instinct. And that way you'll be in the 50% that digs what you're doing, right? Good luck.